across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
How many times has this show, The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, warned you about pandering? How many times have we said that if you give our enemies an inch, they'll take a mile? How many times have we said that British justice, British freedom and British fairness should not bow down in the face of a mob motivated by jihad? How many times have we said that? Tonight, Maccabi Tel Aviv were not allowed into Villa Park, and nonetheless there was a major riot. What virtually is an Islamic insurgency, where basically a group of people have said, this is Muslim land in Birmingham, you do not go against the rules that we make. That Ayub Khan, as far as I'm concerned, is little more than a jihadi. These people are saying that there should be a separate rule for the tribal Islamic areas of this country. And those rules ought to be that Israel is boycotted, that dogs aren't allowed, that miniskirts are illegal, that grooming gangs should get away with whatever they want to get away with. This is a shambles, and all we have done to Ayub Khan by banning Tel Aviv fans is we have given him yet another victory in his crusade for sovereignty over the tribal areas that have been created by uncontrolled immigration. Now look, Asher Gould, who sits next to me, is a Villa fan and actually is a Zionist as well. So what I propose to do now, Asher, is hand over to you for a couple of minutes and take your view on all this.
Well, I mean, you know, like you say, it's. Have I got my mic on? I want you just take over.
So what we'll do is we'll say Asher Gould, who celebrates his 30th year in broadcasting.
Yeah, we didn't have these things did we, in my day.
Next year has come on.
You fandangled things.
Can we all agree that I set that up? One of the most brutal openings I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, We'll edit that out. But I mean, the thing is, you know, they say they speak for the community. They're not the Birmingham community. They're just some people who live in Birmingham now. You know what I mean? The Birmingham community stretches back, you know, centuries. My family were there 200 odd years ago. They moved from London. And how dare other people come and say, this is our community, it's not yours. You know what I mean? It is a colonisation. And it just seems that the spineless Keir Starmer, I thought he was showing a bit of bottle when he came out when it happened and said, oh no, this is anti-Semitic. I mean, he literally said this is anti-Semitic and we're not, this can't go on. And I thought, oh, they're going to do a U-turn on it, and everyone was coming out, but they didn't. They bottled it again.
But I saw, Asher, one of the police officers appear on one or other TV channel going, I know people are very concerned about this, but let me assure you, this was solely as a result of the hooliganism of Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah,
but also we were concerned about the local population. Hang on, it's either solely about the hooliganism,
well, there was
or
no
it is
hooliganism.
not.
They're trying to say what happened in Amsterdam when loads of the fans were attacked was hooliganism, but actually it was planned over they've got the messages saying all these, they weren't even Ajax fans. I mean, ironically, the Ajax fans are called the Super Jews because they're like Spurs, they're sort of a Jewish, you know, they're not actually Jewish, but they all wear the Star of David and all. You know, so, and this was all planned by people, it was taxi drivers, Muslim Islamist taxi drivers who said, we're going on a Jew hunt, and this is what happened. And they try to spin it now to say, oh, there's such a... If it was just because they were hooligans, they could handle Millwall at Villa Park. It wasn't about that. And it wasn't, let's not have a go at Villa about it. It was about... thank you, my latte. Thank you, garçon. It was about non-Villa fans, people from the area. In fact, that solicitor I interviewed a while ago, the guy who represented the two bombers, he was a Liverpool fan. He was wearing a Villa shirt. You could see he had a tag in. He'd probably just got it from the supporters shop, kept the tag on to take it back. But it's unbelievable what's happening because they are kowtowing to it, and the cowardice and spinelessness of the government and the councils. And forget New York, Birmingham has been captured many years ago.
But let me ask you about Galatasaray. So, I think probably the club that is most associated with hooliganism is Galatasaray in Turkey, and yet we still allow their fans to attend matches. Now, look, I'm going to say to you, there is footage.
It was for the fans' safety, really. And as Maccabi Tel Aviv said, even if we got the tickets now, we wouldn't send our fans there. It's not safe.
I heard that. Look, yeah. I will say one thing. There is always a problem in football, because football is about tribalism. There is always a problem with people going too far. There have been incidents of racism right across European football, and that's something that clearly we condemn. But it has to be said that I can't understand how Galatasaray can go around Europe and Maccabi Tel Aviv can't go around Europe. But perhaps we can be enlightened by Johnny Gould, who's a presenter on this channel and a former Talk Sport presenter who's been to Villa Park tonight. Johnny, look, I don't really have a question for you. I just want more of an update. What's your impression on today?
Well, it was ridiculously over-policed. There was a cordon inside the stadium between harmless Aston Villa fans and empty seats. It was as though the police thought, well, we haven't got anything to do, so we may as well watch the game. And I'm talking about scores and scores of yellow vested police. Outside, there was a ridiculous show of strength with a huge amount of police vans like tanks in a row. But on the other side of it, there was a horrible Palestinian protest, which I've tweeted and I think has gone viral out there near the top of my X feed. And literally anything and everything and everybody was slurred and libeled. Benjamin Netanyahu was accused of having had a DNA test that the Palestinian spokesman had taken, and that he was Polish and should go back to Poland. I should say that in a fact-checking situation, he is from Philadelphia in the United States and went to live, I think, in Israel, was born in Israel before that.
Do me a favour. Explain to me what it was like going in, because I've said that they were attempting to whip up an Islamic insurgency. Now, I appreciate that is going probably a little too far, but for me, it's about saying this is the sovereign territory of our tribal area. We make the rules round here, and when we say Jews are not welcome, it's not for the British state to complain about that. It's not for the British police to go against that. This is Islamic land, and Islamic rules will apply, and those rules, by the way, will be whatever our mob says it is.
And they say Zionists, not Jews, but they mean Jews. I mean, if Julie Hartley-Brewer or Kev went down, they'd be all right with them, so they specifically don't really mean Zionists. Sorry, Johnny, yeah.
They would not be all right with Julia Hartley-Brewer, I can tell you that.
Well, she would be all right with them, you know. But the show of strength by the police maybe quelled it, and maybe that's why the police actually thought, well, this isn't going to kick off. We'll go, and some of them can go and stay and go in the match.
I personally don't think they care much about the police. The police are like stewards around these people. And quite frankly, it's the club's fault. I mean, they have engaged with the community in a way which they have surrendered their own identity to a certain extent in the name of inclusivity. I mean, Aston Villa should be free of all religion, and yet we have a game which is obsessed with identity politics. They had the end of the Ramadan festival there with a big iftar meal at the end, and while that's all very nice and cuddly, I don't think that's the function of a football
But wasn't
club.
it out of Villa's hands, Johnny? Wasn't it that they have to do what the police and this security group say? That's what they said.
Villa, from what I understand, Aston Villa told the Birmingham City Council and the police that they could handle this. After all,
right, yeah.
They've had Legia Warsaw around last season. They had Celtic around. And Maccabi Tel Aviv in the pantheon of international football club hooligans and support is pretty small. The idea that they're an organised bunch of fighters is a slur.
Yeah, but it wasn't about the
and
fans.
a lie.
It was Birmingham people who weren't actually Villa fans coming and having a go. It wasn't about a football club, was it? It was people in the area.
Yeah, it was a disgusting show of strength, and it's about time people stood up.
Isn't it time that Aston Villa told the truth about this, which is having Jewish people now walk into the Islamic tribal areas of Britain is not a safe thing to do. Therefore, let's live in the real world. The difference between these people and Warsaw, the difference between these people and Galatasaray, the difference between these people and Celtic is that Islamic tribal areas on the British Isles do not permit Jewish people in large numbers to come in. If I was the chairman of Villa, I would say that. Now, I would be castigated by everyone for saying it, but screw it. Why dance around the issue?
The only problem is that they'll have to secure their huge site there 24 hours a day from forms of attack. It really does stand out in the area of Aston. And, you know, Aston Villa should really stand for itself. Rather than go on the attack, it should just say, we are the original creators of the Football League. We have these set of values. William McGregor, there's a statue which I stood under just about half an hour ago before I left the stadium. He was the first chairman of the Football League, and at Aston Villa they created an industry which spawned from that very boardroom and spread around the world. We have values at Aston Villa, and if they are incompatible with what the local community says, then you better leave your sporting arena to us and you can get on with your religion elsewhere.
Did you see any trouble though tonight? There were 6 arrests, I heard. There's probably been more now.
No, I mean, I was way inside the protest. I videoed it. He was talking an absolute load, literally slur and misinformation after misinformation. He said something like, Tommy Robinson's not here, he's running away, he's not an Aston Villa fan. So I shouted, no, he's a Luton Town fan.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, like he doesn't know anything about anything.
He's a right
Netanyahu is not Polish.
Yeah.
He's an Israeli.
Yeah.
I saw some fireworks. Like Netanyahu.
I saw fireworks fired in, and that was all about it. But I think the show of force, they might have been more trouble. But don't you think Starmer should have actually stood up to what he said and had a bit of backbone and actually forced the securities or West Midlands police to let the fans come, even though Maccabi Tel Aviv said wouldn't let their fans come? But don't you think there should have been something done about that?
Look, the timeline was this, which is that for the first time in a long, long time, the 4 major political leaders all came together and said this ban is outrageous. Yeah. We cannot let it happen. Starmer, Shabana Mahmood, Kemi said it. Even Ed Davey, who didn't jump into a pool of water that day, came out, dried himself down with a towel and actually saw some sense. Everyone got together, and then it looked like it was a battle that was going to be won, but then unfortunately Maccabi Tel Aviv then said, we won't take up our portion of tickets. And I think that is a massive, massive shame.
But what would have happened, let's be clear, at the BBC, at Sky and at ITV, they'd have waited and waited. They'd have seen the dog poo being, well, probably not dog poo, they'll have seen noxious substances being thrown, they'll have seen the racist abuse, they'll have seen the anti-Semitic banners, and then there will have been one Maccabi Tel Aviv fan who'll have had a few too many beers, said something off colour or lashed out, and that would have been the 10 o'clock news tonight on all of these channels.
Yes, and, you know, to his massive credit, Yosef Haddad, who is an elite fighter from the IDF, and incidentally, a Greek Orthodox Christian, he was there to show his courage and the fact that he's a Maccabi Tel Aviv fan and that he wouldn't be intimidated. And, of course, he would be a target if they knew who he was. And they would have probably been under instruction not to retaliate in any way. And by the way, as I mentioned earlier on in our discussion, you know, we've had 150 years experience of away supporters. It would not have been difficult to have policed this. And there's another thing. I managed to get out of the game very early because I was with a friend who has a medical condition. There was a police cordon of 2 deep to try and secure fans away from the residential area just behind the Trinity Road stand, but we were allowed through because my friend showed his NHS card, and we found our way through as an exception. So they had policed it well, and when we got through, I realized that that was overkill. It was unnecessary. They'd had their fun, they'd had their you know, ridiculous slurs and lies through the megaphones on a stage. They'd incited hate. as they were, and they've sort of won this battle.
So
as you say, Andre.
Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable now? So you said something earlier which was important, because I believe that a great deal of this is institutions having to pander under threats of violence. And so that is my concern. Is Villa Park safe? I know that you were saying they'd have to secure the building kind of 24/7. Is somebody now going to turn around and say, oh, well, OK, Villa allowed Maccabi Tel Aviv to come, therefore they're now a legitimate military target?
No, I don't think anyone... I mean, people will say that sort of thing, but I can't imagine for one moment that's the situation. Actually, Aston Villa has a seemingly good relationship with the local Bangladeshi and Pakistani community. I might call it a form of appeasement, because they go a bit too far. I mean, there's not a massive Christmas party for the local community.
Yeah, well, it's like London, isn't it? But I mean, you were talking about your mate. There's loads of Christian Israel IDF soldiers, loads of Muslim IDF soldiers, but also the team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, has quite a few Muslims in the team, doesn't it?
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
Palestinians.
There was a Romanian in the team tonight. There was a Brazilian in the team. There were likely Israeli Arabs. Not sure about Palestinians, but certainly Israeli Arabs. The difference between the two is those who accept living in Israel and those who want to blow it up and destroy it. There's no real difference between what is an Arab Israeli and what is a Palestinian. For example, Yosef Haddad would be described as an Israeli Arab, and he's loyal to the country. He's a patriot for the country. So no, Aston Villa I don't think is a legitimate target. But the reason I said the security issue before, Andre, is because you asked, is it about time the CEO reached out and said, no, we're not having, that. I think that would be a step too far. I just think my answer to that is, Aston Villa does have a set of values. It is 150 years old. You only have to look at the stadium to see the generations of growth.
It's an Archie double-tier stadium, very unique. Glasgow Rangers had one, but not as good.
I think he was talking about the people in it, actually, if I'm being totally
No, the stadium.
But just it's generational, Andre and Ash.
But let me ask you this question. I know you duck in and out of our show, but you're a busy guy. We said that when the Conservative Member of Parliament for Finchley and Golders Green was threatened out on the perception that he was gay and perception that he was Jewish, only one of which was true, but it doesn't really matter.
And he wasn't Jewish.
Exactly, he was perceived to be Jewish. Ergo, they wanted that he was being threatened. We said, protect him. Don't allow the burning down of his office, because if you do that, if you pander to these people, they will put that victory in their back pocket and move on to the next campaign. And just 3 or 4 weeks later, Erskine May was altered in order to allow a substantive vote on Gaza because, and I quote the Speaker of the House of Commons, if we didn't do it, members of Parliament might be murdered. Now, I wonder, and I appreciate you don't want to slag off your own club, but what crime has Aston Villa committed now against Britain by pandering to these people?
Yeah, I wish they hadn't. And
I don't think it was Villa, though, was it? It was the police. It was the police.
I'm not particularly going to defend Aston Villa here, because previous owners, previous chairmen, for example, Doug Ellis or indeed Randy Lerner, may have actually not taken orders. And from what I understand, the chief exec or one of the chief operations officers had a discussion today and said to Birmingham City Council, yes, we could have handled this. And of course, they do know how to handle hostile away crowds. I mean, blimey, Manchester United, Galatasaray you mentioned, Legia Warsaw, who broke in, Celtic with all those Palestinian sympathisers.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Anyone who's been for a night out in Tel Aviv and anyone who's been out for a night out in Warsaw will tell you that I'd rather take on the Tel Aviv lot.
But off the back of that, Johnny, as this set a precedent, will now in other clubs, maybe in Bradford or somewhere, go, you're not having this fan, or is this going to be nipped in the bud and they're going to say, no, this must never, ever happen again?
Well, luckily Bradford City are a load of rubbish and won't be in Europe. But in all seriousness, I really hope, like for example, Leicester City, when they return to the Premier League and maybe get into Europe, we can't have this again. Maccabi Tel Aviv, Hapoel Tel Aviv, Beitar Yerushalayim, whatever Israeli club graces European competition, they must be allowed.
Well, I think Johnny, unfortunately, you're dreaming. I think now every European country will now cite the decision in Birmingham as a reason to never allow Maccabi Tel Aviv fans to ever come again. But by the way, I just want to tell you one thing. To all of you at home, all of you watching and all of you listening, and we've got Pete Barnes doing the pay-per-view review in a minute, he will confirm this. The reason why that safety body is independent is the same reason remuneration panels are independent. So they can do whatever the club tells them, whatever the government tells them, and then go, oh, it was an independent decision.
It's like international law, isn't it? It's international law. It's out of our hands.
Oh, listen, the only reason I got a £1 million pay rise was the independent remuneration panel. Well, the only reason that they've got a job on the panel is because we all know what they'll do. Johnny Gould, thank you so much.
Cheers, Bubba.
Pleasure.
For those of you wondering, Johnny and Asher Gould are brothers, and apparently Johnny says one of them has used his voice in a particular way, and the other one has used it in a different way.
Yeah, we've all.
Is that right,
we've all done it, but he's embarrassed, isn't he? He should be proud of his Birmingham heritage.
I suspect I've never been to the Gould household, but I suspect they didn't exactly grow up on a council estate. Anyway, more next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
OK, this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes, and let's do the most inauthentic thing we ever say on radio and TV. What have you noticed in the press?
Just before that, don't resound. Mark Dolan's on in the morning, so tune in from 6 for Mark Dolan's horrible vegan breakfast show. Hey,
what have you noticed in the press?
What have you seen in the package?
Well, do you know, I'm not usually one to talk about television because I don't really watch it very much anymore, but Traitors. Apparently it was the...
This is the TV
the
show.
TV series. I don't think I'm spoiling it for
Can you give us
everybody.
a synopsis what it is all about?
No,
what happened?
I can't, I'm afraid.
But you know what it is,
No, but what I can tell you all about it is the way that 13 million people tuned in to watch this finale. It must be one of the still one of the most watched things on the BBC, because I don't know why anybody else is watching it.
What is it? What do they do? One of them's a liar and they have to...
Yeah, I presume so. It's like a kind of...
Oh, sorry, have you never watched it?
I've never watched it.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what happened.
What is it?
I don't know why I was asked to do this.
What's all the kerfuffle about it?
So we've just proved the most inauthentic thing ever. What have you noticed in the press? Well, I haven't really. I got told.
I was looking at things like the economy and, you know, the green levies.
No, he told me Pete Barnes knows all about it. Right, here is what the Traitors is. It's a group of people, in this case it's celebrities, they're all brought together, and what happens is, effectively, they have to work out who they believe is a traitor and who who is faithful, and they vote out the traitors or the people they suspect to be traitors every single night, and then every night the traitors get together and murder somebody, quote unquote.
Right.
They don't really.
So basically, what they're doing is the faithful people and the traitors are eliminating each other night by night, and that's the
And
long
chatty man Alan Carr, matron.
Oh, Alan Carr.
Is that the end of that?
Alan Carr.
Well, apparently
Okay, you do that a bit too well.
That's a massive audience for these days.
Yeah, it really is. But there was a bit of controversy because the finale was leaked online because of the mix-up over time zones in Canada, and so like a lot of people found out who was the traitor really before, and like they got leaked online.
Mess up by the BBC.
So that's the bit I know about. That's the bit I know about.
That's the worst thing. After all this, and then they go and tell people who won the traitors early.
I think it was strictly last year or the year before. It was every week the who got booted off was basically announced the night up before and all the rest of it. And it was like, who's running the show over there? And then I realised it's the BBC, so nobody.
Do you know what I always used to do? I always used to read the X Factor voting results from every single week, and from a psephological point of view, you can work out who'd win. I think
what does that mean?
Basically, I think
Psephology is voting.
Psychology.
Yeah, so basically what you need is, you probably need a skilled working class single dad from Liverpool.
Really?
If you get that, you'll probably win.
Oh, that's
because
true.
basically, if you get somebody from Liverpool on the X Factor, they will vote them through. But the best thing you could do is probably, I reckon, a middle-aged couple who'd lived on the streets. He is Scottish and she's a Scouser.
Ah, but where in Scotland? Let me guess.
You mean they
Edinburgh?
literally live on the street?
Glasgow. That's interesting because
Glasgow and Liverpool are big voting blocks.
Oh, right, okay, that's interesting because one of the most trusted accents is the Edinburgh one. It's always at the British Airways, like which accent do you trust the most?
And phone centres.
Yeah, it's always the Edinburgh because it's very calming.
And Geordie,
apparently.
they like Geordie.
Yeah, I'm going to say...
Hey, man, how can I help you, Petsy?
Scottish people's favourite phrase is just now.
Just now.
I'm going out just now.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I always get a Glaswegian to say Carolly Warley, which I quite like.
By the way, Pete, have you seen the John Lewis advert, and did it make you weep? And did you notice how it was an old-style advert? They had, people... the woke's gone, hasn't it?
Yes.
And the thing is, I think it was basically a kid gives his dad a record where love is, Alison Limerick, and he opens it and he goes, oh, and he goes back to a rave, he was at 25, 30 years ago, and then it has the kid as a baby, and he realises he's given up the rave. But it was all made up mainly of white people. The family are all white and the ravers.
Yes.
And I think what they did, they were thinking, well, our customers are probably that, and we've got to be realistic. And the way they could get away with it, because people will complain and go, it's not. Actually, if you look at raves from the... it's on the screen now. If you look at raves from the 90s, it was, reflected the population. There were black people and brown people, but it was 90% white people. And so they could say, well, I bet they looked at actual videos, and this is sort of another... nail in the coffin of wokery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I always keep saying to people that we have to be very careful about this kind of end of woke kind of narrative, and I don't think it's gone anywhere.
I understand there's a book about it.
Yes, apparently so.
That'll be good, won't it?
It's somewhat of a...
I think it's got...
The thing we have to be very careful with British wokery, that's really hard to say, and American woke is it's easier in America because of executive orders. It was like in the UK, it's much more ingrained in our institutions. It's in the people as it was just in the institutions. So you could kind of write it out in America. Here, you've got to kind of root the people out, because I always think you go back to the Carl Jung quote that people don't have ideas have people. So in Britain it's always the same type of person that believes in the same types of things, and we've really got to try to change the kind of culture within our politics.
But it is changing.
It's changing.
It's changing naturally, and the left now, they realise it, and because they're like they're like children and toddlers. They're not going to admit, man up and go, oh, I was wrong and you were right. So they're going to have this narcissistic rage. So this is why we're getting the words. This is why Charlie Kirk was shot in America. We're going to get real bad violence as they lash out like toddlers, because they'll never admit they're right.
I think the woke people are still well up for it, aren't they?
Yeah, so this is my thing. I think they're like a wounded animal.
I've always talked about the Andre Walker anti-slavery policy. Right, which is a really classic example, which is this. I do public speaking training for major companies, and they all demand, in order to sign the contract, I have an anti-slavery policy. So my anti-slavery policy is very simple: to write to the companies that provide my laptop, my pens and paper, and my office, to ask for their anti-slavery policy, and say, I can't work with you unless you've got an anti-slavery
policy. Doesn't your family slave plantation
all
get in the way?
All it requires is one person at one company to start it. The minute BMW's policy on slavery. BMW, bad example.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Moving on.
I'll tell you what. Let's go for IG5. No, I'm joking. Let's go for a UK company.
Yeah.
Say Cadbury's. All it takes is for one person at Cadbury's to say our anti-slavery policy is for everyone else to have an anti-slavery policy, and suddenly everyone has to write an anti-slavery policy.
Yeah.
And it just cascades through the institution.
Well, that's kind of the idea, is that they put the kind of structure in place, and then all it takes is one flick, and then there you go. But
Flake?
One flick.
Cadbury's?
One flick.
One flake.
Good one. But it is interesting, really, because I keep hearing this thing that it's the end of woke, and everything's changing, and we don't care about this stuff anymore.
You can feel it, Pete. It is, and they're lashing out. They know it's coming to the end, and probably reform will get in, and they know that's coming.
But again, if it's all about if they get that majority. If they get the majority, then yes. If they don't,
I think the big issue. And we were talking about Maccabi Tel Aviv before. Let's be clear. The Quangos have overruled the Democratic government. They've said, no, we understand that every major political party thinks Maccabi Tel Aviv should be allowed to Aston Villa, but we run this country.
100%, and I've been saying this thing right from the beginning of it, and said, look at SAG. SAG is the perfect example of everything wrong in this country. It is unelected. You don't have... SAG, the Security and Advisory Group. They're the ones
who advise the police not to allow this.
So basically, it's made up of the head of resilience of the local council, which is such a made-up title.
Well, they've all been captured, these institutions,
but this
so
is
it's political.
What's even more important is that these groups are not statutory, so they are not applicable to freedom of information requests.
Quango.
You don't have to provide information as to who's there, what was said, or if there was any dissent, none of that stuff. So what that means is they can just do whatever they want. It's a way of, politicians get to say, oh, well, there's the advisory group, they did it. So my big thing is, if they are completely just advisory, why, if Aston Villa didn't follow this advice, would they lose their licence? Would they be liable for insurance? It's advice.
Insurance.
But it doesn't make sense.
Insurance, they'd have to do it because of insurance.
But that's the point. If it's just advisory, then their advice is just circumstance.
No.
But it's all about the power that they wield, and the fact that it is kind of yet again our power as a people has been given to them.
Everybody knows what policing advice for football is. It's how many officers do you need?
Exactly.
That's what the advice is. It's never the match doesn't go ahead. That's not the way it works. I remember when I worked at Windsor and Maidenhead Council, the police were pressuring us to shut something called Goswell Hill, which was where all the nightclubs and bars were that Windsor residents went to. And we simply said, no, you just have to tell us how many police you're going to need, and then we're going to have to fix that.
And the teams pay for the police as well.
Yeah, so there's there's definitely all that. And,
I don't know about today. It might have been different today.
I was going to say, I'd love to know how much today actually cost. But in terms of because apparently we had drones, they shut the airspace. There was a whole military.
We shut the airspace.
Apparently, that's what I've read.
The drones. I think the show of force actually, because they sometimes fly planes with things on the back. But
so
I think
this is going to be the narrative when it comes to that.
But they should never allow this to happen ever again.
Yeah, there's that. But what I was going to say is, people are going to say, well, there was no violence. What's that? There's clearly not a problem. There's clearly not a problem of integration. All this thing is all right-wing narratives and all the rest of it. We can't allow the fact that there wasn't any violence.
Well, there was a bit
for them, but not in the way that not in the way it was kind of.
Listen, let me tell you something. The angry jihadis could have garroted Jewish people in front of a Sky camera, and people would have said there was no violence.
Yeah, that's true, but it's about kind of maintaining the narrative, and that we've got to kind of keep this pressure on at the moment, because it can all go wrong, and it will all go wrong at some point. I'm 100% certain of it.
Right, Daily Express and Shirley Valentine and TV legend Pauline Collins.
Before we go any further, somebody said, is Pete drinking raw sewage?
No, it's a coffee. It's just with
iced
coffee.
Sophisticated to have it in a glass. It's a bit like being French, isn't it?
Why don't we get some talkTV mugs? Right, and also, what you can do is, and this is what angers the company, take it home afterwards. I've nicked about 50.
They go a bit schmutzig in the dishwasher
after a while.
Anyway,
stop, everyone. Right. You're not allowed to take them home, Pete. So how would you know they
because
go
dodgy? Because he's right in front of me. He's right in front of me.
Anyway, can I tell you the worst thing I ever did was I stole one from here and one from GP News, put them in a box,
summon the police,
and put them in as a raffle prize for a charity.
No, I've seen people be on here with the other mug. On the wrong station.
I like to do that. I have a Virgin one because I think it's like cross-promoting, and they can have a talk.
My favourite ever thing was the European People's Party issued a load of umbrellas and gave them out to European Parliament staff. And every time there was an event and it was rainy, you'd see one. Yeah. Somebody saw like the PGA from America, and someone had a European People's Party umbrella.
Right, the Express and the gang's inquiry dither and delay. And you know what? This is the grooming gang. Well, it's not. It's a rape gang, a survivor fear. The government national inquiry is less about the truth and more about a cover-up. They need to forget this inquiry and set up a group of police who actually to go out, do arrests now and investigate what's happened and forget an inquiry.
Talking of inquiries. Right, I'm not going to name the person. Was watching Sky tonight. Very famous former presenter who has now got a podcast about the death of Charlene Downs, in which she strongly argues that there was no grooming gangs involved. Won't say who it was. Oh. Don't listen to the podcast. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
God,
no, this is quite interesting.
He's going wild.
Yeah.
He's going wild. Look at his face.
I feel it through the glass. But no, this is quite interesting from Farage, actually. And it's about, I wondered when somebody would realise the power of parliamentary committees. And actually that Parliament has the power to do a lot of this stuff itself.
I agree with that.
And I cannot believe it's taken this long for somebody to actually flick through Erskine May and say, oh yeah, we could have done this months ago.
Do you know
it's rather infuriating.
Do you know what we used to do all the time? And I think this is, I assume this is what he's attempting to do. We just set up an all-party group.
Yeah.
I just said, right, we're just going to publish a report from an all-party group. Yeah. And that is a parliamentary committee.
Yeah, because most people kind of forget that the parliamentary committees have the power to compel. They have all the powers of a judge.
Talking, by the way, about the powers to compel, what about this story about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and the United States of America trying to compel him to give evidence via Zoom from the UK? Yeah. I think he should say yes.
I think he should go to America, actually, and, forget the Zoom. I'm sorry.
But it's not going to do him any good by doing that.
I think it will.
I don't really care if it does him any good.
Yeah, but you've got to look at it from him. He's never going to agree.
It's the right thing.
No, let's just be clear, right? So imagine he said the following, which, by the way, he's not admitted to or whatever. Imagine he said, look, you know what? I went round to Jeffrey Epstein's house, etc., slept with these people, right? Didn't know they were groomed and they were trafficked, because nobody's ever suggested he did know that.
Yeah.
Not even Virginia Giuffre has suggested. She didn't tell him any of these things. And then he says, I recognise that I've been part of this. Now I'm going to help the victims.
Yeah.
Look.
It could be a little bit of an atonement.
People literally wrongly think he's been accused of abusing little kids, right? Yeah. And he hasn't. He hasn't. So his reputation could not be worse.
Yeah, it can't get any worse, really, can it, if we're being honest? But again, this would require somebody with an ego to do something rather selfless, and I don't think that's going to happen.
That's a reasonable point.
Yeah.
Right, who are Daily Star free Zimmer for every Oz cricketer? You're going to give him a Zimmer frame.
I thought you were going to talk about the death of this woman from Shirley Valentine.
Yeah.
My mum loved that film.
Well, you talk about it in the Shirley Valentine.
Pauline Collins, Shirley Valentine.
It's brilliant.
It was about a woman from Wigan who went on holiday to Corfu.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
Well, no wonder you know about it. It's like a documentary of your life.
I actually, but it would have been of mine.
That's right. I suppose it's similar to my mum dating a Greek fella. But basically, she just has a crap life in Wigan and decides to go to Corfu and live working in a bar.
Oh, it's a bit like that El Dorado. The Daily Star, you could do that, Pete. Car smash, most useless faithfuls. Comic Alan Carr, one of the traitors, leaving the fans of the hit show asking, how on earth could the faith something raise
how could the faithfuls miss that?
This is what they're
so basically so he was a traitor, so they didn't know.
We've done this.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, Gareth Southgate, he showed the traitors to his players in 2022. Who cares? And it didn't do him any good, did it? The Times, the Soaraway Times, Nuremberg, the movie What's True, What's False. Well, I don't like films where they make stuff up about that sort of thing. Income tax will go up, Reeves tells Watchdog. You don't say. Fears of rises is harming growth. Bank warns, and it's only going to get worse. Rachel Reeves has told the Budget Watchdog that she plans to increase income tax, as she promised she wouldn't, as she looks to repair the public finances. They're bringing out loads of taxes. I see they're going to put on the electric cars, which is quite good because they're all those smug electric car people.
It's the end of the electric.
But what's going on? Is it the high rate of income tax going to go up like 2 pence? That'll be a lot of money.
From what I know, there's over 120 taxes on the table that are set to go into the budget. It's going to be one of the most reformative tax codes. In other words, it's going to have so much more put into it, which is ridiculous because we already have one of the biggest tax codes in the world anyway.
Like a phone book.
Yeah, this is terrifying. But what's actually more terrifying about what the government's doing right now is they're doing this. They're allowing us to speculate. And the worst thing you could do for a market is speculation, particularly when it comes to a market and an economy that's not very strong. So, this is like they did this the last time, though. They made it 10 times worse because they aren't being clear and upfront because they don't really yet
the markets
know what's
don't they like to know what's going on.
Here's the bit I don't get. Public services are getting worse and taxes are going up. How is this happening? Is it just uncontrolled immigration?
No, it's actually the entire economic doctrine of the government. So basically, if you remember all the way back,
yeah, but they can't have implemented an entire economic doctrine in 1 year.
This is the problem they have.
Okay.
And they went. So Rachel Reeves gave the one of the big lectures, which is like this. It's had the statement piece in the City of London, and basically she created this new economic doctrine.
The Mansion House speech.
Yes, it's got a particular name, and I can't remember what it is. But basically, she said that if you could create growth through investing in the public sector. Wow, not quite sure.
Possible.
But this was the problem. Instead of listening to all the advice from all the very smart finance people, the government went, we know better than you, and they ploughed ahead with it anyway.
Listen to our student ideologue, mate.
Yes, this is the thing. And it's everybody else in the Treasury, as again, they're all captured.
We allowed this with Blair, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where he said, instead of spending on public services, you're now investing in public services. So let's just be clear. If you pay somebody to sweep the streets, you're not really investing in street sweeping. You might be able to attract investment by having a nicer environment. But this idea, we've invested in 50 nurses, well, it's not an investment.
No. This is the big thing. You hear investing, think spending, because the things we actually put the money into was pointless. We should have been invested in infrastructure.
Yes.
Because infrastructure,
now you can invest in infrastructure.
Because actually you create a lot more growth through infrastructure investment, because you then have house building and companies and other things develop out of the
and people compete, so they will build. Now house building stopped in London because people are saying there's no money in it anymore. You need private investment, and then people compete, and there's more and that brings the rent down.
I want to ask both of you. No, I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave this question.
Ask the question, and we'll think about it.
And you can call 0344 499 1000. Do you feel that we now live in a country of overbearing governments?
Yes.
Fact. Do you feel that it's harder to live your everyday life? And perhaps we can come up with some examples. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Yes, so before the break, by the way, and we never remember to go back to the question we've asked before the break.
Oh, no, yeah, we were meant to think about it. Take another break and we'll...
Okay. So I've got to be honest with you. I went to a friend of mine's funeral in Wales. A dear friend of mine, I'm very sorry about his untimely demise, but it has to be said that when I got to Swansea, there were places to park. You know, it didn't feel oppressive. Okay, there was a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, but I feel like whatever I do in England, in the southeast of England, they make it deliberately hard for you.
It is.
I think that's partly the government.
I think it is, but also I think it's actually the nature of the state at the moment in terms of. I always say that we're a risk.
The overreach.
Yeah, the overreach, but we're a risk assessment without the follow-up. So we do all the paperwork and all the kind of that bit, and then we don't do the next bit. So this is why everything keeps falling down.
But that's typical of a bureaucracy,
yes,
though,
and that's the thing. So there's a great phrase that the bureaucracy is expanding to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy. So in other words, it's paperwork on paperwork.
honest with you, I studied. My A level was in Nazi Germany, and
You're that old?
I'm that old. Get out of
An
it.
A level in Nazi Germany.
But you specialise in certain topics. And one thing we were talking about was the reason that France had been defeated in the Second World War so quickly, and it was because of the bureaucracy.
Yes.
Now, can I tell you,
Well, that's
in
what they say.
1995, in an A-level class of fairly intelligent people, everyone said, "What's a bureaucracy?"
Yeah.
British people did not understand the idea of a civil service that just serves itself.
Yes,
we
yeah.
didn't even know what that was.
No, well, this is part of the problem. And you want to know why we had these migrants released by accident, and we'll never find out how or why it happened because it's so complicated.
But
this is the thing.
We had efficient bureaucracy in the wartime.
Yeah, so you suddenly find that, when half your country's blowing up, necessity is the greatest motivator. That's what they always say. But
I've got a friend of mine who said to me, Britain always almost loses.
But also, it was a very unified, homogenous community.
What happens is the government gets kicked out of the way at some point, and ordinary people get on with it.
Pretty much.
So that bloke sat there, going, "Oh, let's tick this box, let's tick that box." They just sod him off.
Usually they tell him to go count the grains of rice in the corner or something like that. Go busy work. But you have to remember, I think it was 12 people rang the British Empire at one point. So again, again, if we really needed it, we are efficient.
I mean, it's amazing actually. When I was in Windsor Guildhall the other week,
they must have been knackered.
It struck me at the height of the British Empire. Windsor, the town of Windsor, had a mayor and a town clerk and a council, and that was it.
Yeah, well,
they had one bloke.
Less trained to communication to mess up.
And that's the point. And this is why we'll never find out.
And to blame, to blame when something.
Well, the reason it's also complicated now is because you can't give blame.
There's
to
no
it.
name.
There's no name.
At the BBC, apart from now, there is with the.
And I've always said this about the grooming gangs. Why we've got to stop saying, West Midlands Police or this police. We've got to start naming people.
Well, the head's got a role. Like Lammy should have resigned. I think he misled Parliament when he was doing it. Loads of people's heads should roll. They should fall on their own sword honourably, like they used to.
Did they really though? We always
I think Robin Cook was the last one to do that. They did.
I've got a great idea.
He resigned.
I've got a great idea for people like Sadiq Khan, right? And I'm not joking. And people are going to say this controversial, unacceptable, whatever. I think that those people that assist in the cover-up of things like grooming gangs should be prosecuted as if they were members of the gang.
Yes.
Right? And so what I would do with police officers and social workers in particular, if they're found guilty, death penalty.
But wouldn't you say?
So what you do is you say with the former Chief Constable of the Greater Manchester Police, you spent your entire career as Chief Constable trying to prevent any investigation into grooming gangs, death penalty.
But on top of that, wouldn't you say that the people who have enabled all this illegal immigration, they're responsible for people who've been murdered and raped by those people who have broken in and they've been covering up for them? I mean, there was Isabel Oakeshott, I saw her story, and some guy admitted to murdering his wife, and the guy who got done for burglary, he's not getting done. I don't think there's charges. I'm not sure if it's standing, but he just said that I can't remember. I've lost my train of thought.
No, but what you were saying was this: there are people who've been accused of murder who are coming into this country.
No, but that's the thing. Yeah, the Home Office said, "Oh, don't worry about it." He says a lot of things. They didn't even. We can't identify. How dare talk? Say that. And they said, "Well, why didn't they go? Who is it? We can identify him." I mean, they just don't want to know.
The other thing that happened, which I saw in the Daily Express, which I think was quite interesting this week, was the whistleblower. No, actually, it was in the Telegraph. I apologise, but in the Telegraph, the whistleblower who turned round and said that she had been pressured. I think it was a she. She had been pressured to approve people to come into the country. And anyone who had a criminal conviction, as long as they were sentenced to less than 12 months, they were allowed in. What?
I know.
I saw that today.
Well, you have to go back to what Jack Straw said when he was all the way back then when he was Home Secretary. The one cabinet you don't touch, the one cabinet in the Home Office you don't touch is the one marked immigration. It has been a catastrophe, the Home Office, for a very long time. The idea that you could have one department run all the security services, all the police, all of immigration, all this stuff, and think it's going to work perfectly, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. So this idea of putting all government departments together...
So are we all agreed on the Asher Gould idea, which takes it further, which is to say that those people in the Home Office can be prosecuted for the rapes and murders of the people they let in.
I would even go even further than that. I'd say anybody realistically in the commentariat, anybody in the media or the press who has deliberately looked the other way.
So actually, you would turn around and you would say, Owen Jones can be prosecuted for being a member.
Well, he should be anyway, just for being Owen Jones.
No, I think we just need to be clear. We just need to be clear on what we're saying about him. We believe that his support for uncontrolled immigration has led to grooming gangs. Therefore, he's as bad as the groomers
and
themselves.
of course, the anti-Semitic attacks in Manchester, it's all been whipped. Anyway, look, we've got to take a break. Producer's going mad, so we'll be back. Give us a ring, 03444991000. It'll be all about your calls in the next hour. But, it's me, Andre and Pete, and we're going through the papers more in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. And yes, Pete, I'm in the new film about Pete,
That's
Chris
amazing.
Eubank.
Why?
Well, by the way, the reason we're talking about that is because I used to work with Chris years ago, and we had a lovely reminiscing time today, and we'll play that in a minute. I've just sent it to...
So you saw him today?
Yeah, I saw him today, and I used to do the show with him like 25 years ago. It's fantastic. I met his son, actually, about a month ago when he did Piers Morgan. But yeah, we'll play that video of me and Chris having this reunited again after 25 years.
Did he know who you were?
It was, well, you'll see. It was really emotional. Who are you? Yeah.
Do you remember that classic? Do you remember that classic in the House of Commons with Jeremy Corbyn? He goes, I was in Brussels talking to socialist leaders and prime ministers, and one of them said to me, "Who are you?"
I remember that. It was lovely to see him, and he looked great on it. I don't know what he was doing, some Talk Sports.
I'll tell you the one thing that's gone wrong with the film. Don King has fallen ill.
Oh. You played Gary Newbon. You used to be of this parish.
I played Gary Newbon, the former Talk Sport presenter.
He looks like him, doesn't he?
Do I? They just, you know what they said to me, the casting guy? He said
not
to
really,
me,
not really,
he said, you look fat, we'll make you Gary Newbon.
Do you know what? Someone in that room now, I won't say who, but you came on screen and said, oh, look, it's Claire Boulding.
What was that? Claire Balding.
You did look like Claire Balding a bit.
No, the thing is, Gary Newborn had a side part, so I've decided not to chop my hair until I finish the film.
It was interesting when he was at talkSPORT. We weren't allowed rights or something, so we had mobile phone fans. So we had, hey, let's go to Villa Park. Here's Reg at Villa Park, and they do a report from the match. It was sort of a loophole of getting around reporting restrictions.
But somebody told me that if you phoned up from the ground and we played it live on air, the fact you can hear the
I think they did change the rules because we used to find ways of bending the rules at talkSPORT. You know.
Well, I'll tell
a little
you,
bit this, a little bit that.
I've got to be honest with you. Look, I'm not a massive sports fan, but I think talkSPORT do incredibly well. Because, okay, they comment on all of these football matches and whatever. They don't have the rights to the football, a lot of it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't cost you £50 a month to pay for the damn thing.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I used to go watching Wigan Rugby League, there was a guy sat a few rows in front and he was blind. And the guy sat next to him was a former radio commentator and he narrated the entire game, start to finish. It was one of the most... I've spent more time watching
his personal commentator?
Yeah, basically. It was absolutely amazing.
Why didn't he just get a radio and listen to the match?
Well, I don't know, but I think that was I think they were like father and son of... I think
do you remember the Bolton Wanderers? The Bolton Wanderers commentator.
They were a great band.
The Bolton Wanderers commentator, who they had to sack when they went into the Premier League, but he used to get very emotional. Do you remember him?
No,
he used to cry at the end of the match.
That's a beautiful thing. I love seeing that sort of... I remember when of this parish Rupert Bell, who's a Villa fan, he was meant to be commentating and he joined in the pitch invasion. He was so overcome at Villa Park.
I saw Rupert Bell making some comments about the royal family and I just thought, that's just wrong.
Well, he went to school with Prince Andrew, so he knows all about him.
My favourite thing about royal commentators is the way they just make it all up.
I have to admit.
Well, do you remember that story?
As the Queen said to the King.
Do you remember that story when they got 5 of them to say, look, just make it up and say it? And he went, oh, okay, yeah.
It's like sommeliers, isn't it? Like, do you know, when there's always that one person that puts in, like, you know, like an Aldi's own or something like that.
Blue Nun, this is a fine 1987.
I'll tell you what I did. I was having dinner at the Oxford and Cambridge Club.
It is a relatable story.
On Pall Mall. Right, it was my mate's birthday, and we were literally guzzling this wine, all this sort of thing, just out of university and whatever. Like
the Bullingdon Club.
Yeah,
with the pig's heads.
That's right. So basically, going to a black tie thing, and I said, "Oh, that wine's awful." The sommelier goes. I said, this is awful. He went, I would take it away. He came back and went, the quality is fine. I just think that your palate is not used to an oak-aged Chardonnay. I'll bring you a bottle of the house white.
Wow.
I was like, oh.
I mean, you have to be in a certain establishment where the staff can get away talking to people.
That is the end, isn't it?
I know.
That is the end.
I was like, I'll get my coat.
The quality is fine.
By the way, if you're listening in the morning, it's going to be Mark Dolan next, so give him a ring. Give us a ring, 03444991000, because in the next hour, it's all going to be about your calls.
Yeah, and do you know what? We've only had a few people register for calls, which I'm quite surprised at, because it's been such a big night for the news. It's 03444991000. Okay,
we're going to talk about the Villa after the news.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Villa, and I think it's a big thing, and you don't have to be a sports fan to be interested in it. Anyway, that's Mark Dolan is coming up, if you're listening, on Friday morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Why do that?
Because I always do it because I like to test their editing skills.
It's meant to
Leave it in anyway. Mark will love that. It saves him a few seconds.
We're meant to finish at
He's always late anyway, Dolan.
We're meant to finish at 4. Hey, I'll tell you what.
Edit that out.
One of the first shifts I ever did was when he showed up 24 hours late for a show he was doing.
Yeah, but it's still a great show. It's actually a much better show than he normally does when he turns up.
They said to him they wanted him to do overnights on Saturday. So they phoned him up. They phoned him up Friday night and went, "Where are you?" And he went, "Well, I'm doing overnight Saturday." They went, "No, that's Sunday."
It's very confusing, isn't it? Very confusing.
It's not confusing.
Still invoice for it.
Okay, thank you so much to Pete Barnes. We're going to be back taking your calls. Unless, Pete, do you want to hang around for 5 minutes?
I can hang around for 5
minutes. Nice one.
Because we always like to know what Pete thinks is going to happen in the future.
Hold his carriage. So 03444991000. It's me and Andre JP Walker.
At Virtual Ash.
At PC Barnes 123.
That's
back
Petey.
in AMO.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould on a night that I think will be remembered for a long time for absolutely all of the wrong reasons. This isn't Talk Sport, this is Talk Radio or Talk TV.
We can actually do Talk Sport better than them, don't worry about that.
However, our issue is about the fact that we have pandered to a group of people threatening violence. We have pandered to a jihadi MP. Well, I don't know what you want to call it, but okay, let's be fair to the man. Elected with no policies about the United Kingdom, but only a policy on Gaza, which I think is really pretty disgraceful. But I think that we're going to live to regret this. I think Maccabi Tel Aviv will now not play anywhere at all, or rather their fans will not be allowed anywhere, because every European country will bottle it just like us, apart from maybe the Eastern Europeans, who, if they think Maccabi Tel Aviv hooligans, will probably be well...
They're just equal opportunity racists, the Eastern Europeans, so they're just racist to everyone. No, only joke. Well, not really. They sort of are. They're a bit like it was here in the 70s.
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'm really pleased the next caller has called, because Tristan in Southend is somebody who decided to publicly admit he was Jewish when the 7th of October attacks happened. He had previously, for whatever reason, been nervous about doing that. I don't think Tristan's a massive football fan, and either way he's from Essex. But
Southend United.
Interesting, Tristan, to hear your take on tonight.
Hello, Andre. Good evening, Ash.
Right,
thank you for a lovely show so far this evening. So what I'd like to say is most people in the UK seem to think it'll be Scotland who declares independence first. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be one of our major cities.
Right.
With the sectarian politics we see in the country now, it's only a matter of time.
They won't be allowed to. You can't just take the city because you want it.
No, I have to say, I'm with you, Tristan, and I appreciate. Yeah. Ash is right. You can't just go, we're making this city independent. But look, in some respects, Birmingham is a semi-autonomous region anyway. The reason is because it has its own rules on what Jewish people can come. It has its own rules on policing. It operates a slightly different democratic system. And when I say a slightly different democratic system, the system that... And by the way, if you're from Birmingham and want to tell me I'm wrong, the way elections work in Birmingham is that Dad gets a certain number of votes based on the number of adults in the house, and he will exercise them all personally. That is a different electoral system. So when you've got a different religion, when you've got a different language, when you've got a different culture, when you've got a different history, when you've got a different political system, when you've got a different policing system, when you've got a different judicial system, when you've got a different system of the way you operate your football club, you are not an entirely fulsome part of the country you're in. You're a semi-autonomous region.
It's colonised.
Absolutely. And the thing about sectarian areas is they do end up caliphates in all but names.
Well, I mean, I was listening to a caller today who said there's parts in Birmingham, and it's like that everywhere, where basically, the communities police their own. So there's actually areas where there's just openly selling drugs because the police don't go in that area. They say, well, the community's policing. And we all know what that means, Put your swords back in the mosque, lads. They wouldn't say that to Millwall fans. Go and put your knives back in the church, lads.
Absolutely, Ash, but we don't really have a police force, and we do not have an army.
Well, it's captured, and they're political activists.
Well, I will say one thing in defence of the police, who I think have behaved appallingly. By the way, police constables, ordinary coppers on the streets, we love you. We think you're doing a really difficult job, and I know that 10,000 police officers are threatening to resign over their anger with all the wokery and stupidity. But in defence of the leadership of the police, who we never defend on this show, last month, the Met spent 10 million on protests. 10 million a month.
That's not a good thing. That's
10 million a month. And you have to say to yourself, I'm sick of these bloody protests. I'll tell you what a protest is. You turn up at the town hall with a placard, right, for half an hour, and then you hand them your petition, right? You don't go for a day. You don't do what Brian Hoare did 10 years or whatever he sat outside Parliament
Shouldn't be
for.
a nuisance to other people.
No, that is harassment. 50 of your mates going into M&S and smashing the place up because you perceive it to be Jewish or Israeli is not a protest, it's just violence.
But not even that. I mean, these protests on a Saturday is costing millions, and over the 2 years, billions to the high street shops there.
Do you know what used to happen? And I appreciate the local councils I worked for were sedate, right? But what would happen is even the congestion charge protests, what they would do is they would go, right, there's going to be a plenary session today with Ken Livingstone. That is, there's going to be a mayoral questions or whatever, and Ken is going to turn up. Half an hour before Ken speaks, there will be a protest outside City Hall by the anti-Western extension of the congestion charge people. They will hold up placards. When he walks in, they will boo him, and then they will present their petition to us, and then they will quietly watch the mayoral questions. Not that they're going to turn up for 6 months and pitch a tent.
Yeah,
that's harassment.
Andre, you know, there's a big difference between a demonstration and a demonstration of dominance. I think the two get confused.
Show of
that's
force
what's happening in London. Yeah, absolutely. It's just pure intimidation.
Well, that's all
I get very upset. I mean, I thought there was that bloke who had a butcher's who began butchering the animals in the window because the vegans with megaphones. And okay, you can be critical of that bloke. But for 3 months, they'd gone down every Saturday with a megaphone and shouted abuse at his customers, right? I mean, that's not a protest either. That's harassment.
Yeah, and I think there's laws about it as well, but they don't seem to do anything if you're from a certain...
Look, I always get annoyed about Jewish people saying that they've got bagpipes. I know that's figurative rather than literal, but...
Well, no, it was with the original generation. They did
There's a great deal of nervousness. I remember Jerry Springer saying that his dad had this old car.
Ruby Wax, parents had a suitcase.
Yeah.
You know, but they were people who actually came from the war, so they were traumatised people.
By the way, I was going to say, do you know what Lance Foreman said? Lance Foreman, as you can imagine, because he's got that salmon smoking business, is incredibly wealthy. I mean, I don't know how rich he is. I've not looked at his bank account. But he said to somebody once, do you know what? And there were plenty of rich people in Poland as well. And I thought, that's a reasonable point. But I want to ask you, as a Jewish person, Tristan, I appreciate you don't speak for every Jewish person. How do you feel about this? Is this further proof that in the end your future is Israel, not the United Kingdom?
Unfortunately, it won't be. I don't think it'd be fair on me to go to a Jewish state that doesn't really support disabled people, to be honest with you.
Oh, right, okay.
What do you mean, why don't they support? They do support. I mean, they have a lot of Israeli soldiers who are disabled. They have more support for disabled people than most because of so many injured amputees.
No, hang on a second. That's quite interesting because, I mean, first of all, no Jewish person should feel they have to go to Israel. That's a disgrace.
But it's a bit like Southend as well.
However, your problem is actually much more practical than I was thinking, Tristan. Explain.
Why, Tristan? What do you mean?
Why, to be honest, look, can I be really honest with you?
Yeah, that's what we want.
Really brutally honest. It's a bit heavy. Now, I'm British born and bred, and I'm very proud of being British, as every bit as much as I am being Jewish.
Yeah.
But if the worst were to happen, I'd rather it were on British soil where I was born. I refuse to be forced out.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I understand that. You know, I fully understand that.
Yeah, I know it's a bit heavy, but I'd rather...
Have you ever been to Israel? Yeah, I mean, you've never been, have you?
I'd love to. I really would. The opportunity nearly came up.
Well, I know you were trying to blag a trip, weren't you?
No, they cancelled. They did cancel.
I know, because of the Iran war. Yeah. The Iran war scuppered it for you.
I think the thing that's going to be... I think the thing that's going to be difficult for you about Israel, in my view, is that every time, and I'm not taking the mick, but obviously you are blind, it's just looking around and seeing the development of the whole place. And clearly it's quite hard for you to do that because you're blind. But the culture of it, I think, has remained pretty consistent. The desire to build a nation together. The one thing that's weird about Israel, by the way, I was out in Tel Aviv, right?
Well, that's weird in
itself. And they were drinking coffee in nightclubs. I mean, that is spent.
Well, the thing is that the Friday and Saturday, Saturday night doesn't begin till midnight. You know what I mean?
That's a reasonable point, actually. And do you know what? I went on a university trip paid for by the Union of Jewish Students. I'm not Jewish myself, and I stayed in this hotel suite in Tel Aviv, overlooking the sea. It was absolutely amazing. And my roommate, because we had a 2-bedroom apartment, was Joe Swinson, who later became the leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Oh no, not her.
She was actually. Can I tell you something? She was actually just. It was amazing. She was this little petite, very good-looking girl, and you know, like compared to now, she looks completely different. But anyway.
Oh no. Oh dear, I wouldn't have envied that. I really wouldn't, no matter how nice he was.
Yeah, okay,
Thanks, Tristan.
Okay, let's go to Ken in London. Ken, how are you?
Hallelujah, Ken.
Good
Morning. It's great morning.
Good morning,
What message have you got for us all?
Morning has broken like the first sunshine.
So what have you got to tell us, Ken?
Day. Very good. But listen, this is what's happening at Aston Villa and Birmingham. But Birmingham, as far as I can see, has been taken over by Muslims, sadly. But historically, when you check out the history of Islam, Islam is a religion of hatred towards all non-Muslims, especially Jews and Christians. That's the history of Islam.
But isn't the purpose of Islam really to say this is the final revelation? All Jews and Christians are on a journey to becoming Muslims, and we have to push them along that journey.
And you can either pay jizya, or you can convert, or be put to death. Those are the three options.
That's it. That's what they offer them. But we have to understand that. When Muslims come into another country, how they operate is when they come into another country in small numbers, they obey the law and they're quiet. But when they grow in numbers, they become very aggressive, and they call out for special attention, and they threaten the people to give them special attention. That's how they operate.
Well, we've seen that. We've seen the product of that at a Villa today.
The big problem with any religious extremist, and by the way, I don't include Ken as a religious extremist. I think that you can be a strong believer in your religion without being an extremist. The problem is with any religious extremist, they believe that they are right, they should get special treatment, they should get all the attention. And there are a large number of people in this country who are Islamic fundamentalists.
Yeah, but Ken, you could say Ken's an extremist, but he doesn't say people should be forced to do it. He tries to convince people, but it's their choice, whereas it's not like that, is it, with an extremist?
Well, yeah, that's right. Funnily enough, the first time I actually met Ken, he was down.
He never got violent, did he, Ken?
He was downstairs, and security were a little bit nervous about him because they thought they thought he was a protester. But of course, Ken's not a protester.
He looks dangerous.
He literally just stands there and tells you about the Bible.
Tells you how it is, man.
Yeah. Now he's not protesting anything. He's not having a fight with anybody.
Amen. But the point I would like to make here is that as a Christian, our first goal as a born-again Christian is to love God first and love our neighbour as ourselves. However, the Bible tells us clearly that Christians have to be light and salt in this community. And we have to stand up, as Christians, stand up against evil, tell the truth and love and concern for others, and rebuke all false teachings in the name of Jesus. We have to stand up for the truth.
But can I ask you a question? And this is one thing that I didn't know tonight until Johnny Gould told me. But you know, there are Ramadan and Eid events at Villa Park, but there are no Christmas or Easter events at Villa Park. That, I'm afraid, is not acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
The most dangerous religion to Islam is Christianity. Whenever they come into a country, look at Nigeria, they're slaughtering the Christians in Nigeria. They hate the Christians. The greatest sinners on earth to the Muslim is a Christian. Why? Because we are committing what they call the sin of shirk, S-H-I-R-K, which is anybody, shirk. To equate anyone as being equal with God. Well, we believe in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. We only believe in one God, one divine essence, one true God, but there are three persons in that God. There's the Godhead of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's what's taught in the Bible. Now, the Muslims absolutely hate that. They also hate the cross of Jesus Christ. They hate the cross. They refuse to believe Jesus was crucified on the cross. They refuse to believe he was raised from the dead.
But this is the bit I don't like, Ken. I'm perfectly happy if you do not believe in the Holy Trinity. I'll live with that. What I don't like is when you come to Britain and you say, because I don't believe in the Holy Trinity, you may not say it yourself and you may not believe it. What annoys me is not an ordinary Muslim going to mosque reading the Quran. It is somebody who turns around and says, I have the right to tell you to practice my religion.
And isn't it ironic that the trouble happened on Trinity Road, at the Trinity Road end of Villa Park?
Yeah, but listen, we have to understand in this country, the politicians have to come out of their political moral cowardice.
They won't know, will they, Ken? This lot won't do that. You're kidding, they're spineless.
Well, Ash, the Christians need to stand up in the House.
Well, exactly, but they're not. These lot aren't going to do that. They're in it for themselves.
Yeah, but hang on a second, Ken. I'm going to tell you off. because it's your turn the other cheek attitude, which is the reason that Lebanon has gone from 80% Christian to 10% Christian.
And Bethlehem as well, of course.
No, the Bible doesn't tell us to turn our cheek to evil. The Bible tells us to stand up against it and speak the truth against evil. But I'd just like to make this point, if you can allow me here.
Yes.
The Christians have to bring rebuke against Islam and pray together and stand against it.
But you're all about forgiveness, Ken. That's the trouble. Go, oh, look how weak they are. They're always forgiving.
Our nation has been slowly taken over by the evil force of Islamic fundamentalism. Islam equals jihad. That is the truth of the matter. I've been involved with Muslims since I was converted 45 years ago. I know how violent and how vicious and how hateful they are towards Christians.
Extremists, yeah. Okay, well, look, thanks, Ken. We've got to take a little break here.
Sorry, I was just going to say the same thing. Do it. No, you do it.
I'll do it then. 0344 499 1000. It's Andre and Ash on Talk, and back in a minute and a bit.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Yeah, do you know what we're going to do? From tomorrow, we're going to prioritise new callers, because I do apologise, we spend a lot of time with people we know. If you phone in 0344 499 1000, we're going to prioritise new calls. Nothing against the existing people, but apologies for that, Asher. Yeah. And thank you for drawing that to my attention.
Carol, she's not from Bishopton, she's in Renfrewshire, but it goes through the Bishopton Exchange. Hi, Carol, morning.
Hello, Ash, how are you?
We're all right, man, we're all right. What's up, Carol?
Right, Ash, I would like to ask you a question.
Shoot.
In the Virginia G-Through book, a Prime Minister was mentioned, but never named. But this week...
Yeah, but we know who it is, don't we? It's not going to be like Gordon Brown or Theresa May, is it?
Not twice this week on Avid Gardener, and I think Lady C, Tony Blair has been named. Can I just ask you what you think the outcome...
Can we just stop this now? So just to be clear what she's talking about, the book Everywhere in the World says that one of Epstein's friends was a former prime minister, doesn't name the country, doesn't name the person. In the UK it says it's a former minister, doesn't name the country, doesn't name the person. I think it's unfair to speculate. My understanding is...
And it was posthumously released.
Yeah, it was posthumously released. The big problem is, and I don't want to cop out, Carol, it's just we don't know who that person is, right? So we can all say we suspect, like you just said. Please, help me out here, mate.
I just deducted. I didn't actually say anyone's name, did I?
Help me out, mate.
Well, basically, legal reasons we can't say it. You know what I mean? We can't just say.
So I'll tell you what we can do. I'll tell you what we can do. Why don't we all have our own opinions in our own mind, Carol, and then we continue the discussion.
Of course, a lot of people on that list didn't do anything. I mean, Professor Stephen Hawkwind was on it. He wasn't up. Well, I don't think so. He wasn't chasing anyone.
Come over here, darling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Anyway, Carol,
I just wondered, Ash, because the name had become public, Would it explode?
Yeah, well, we can't really speculate. I mean, he's going to be the new king of Gaza. They're going to do the ID card test
the problem is the name has not become public.
Yeah.
From what you tell me, there are people abroad who've speculated who it might be. But Virginia Giuffre, who's now dead, said a former prime minister, naming no country and naming no person.
Of course, Mandelson was great friends with him.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, and by the way, when it says former minister in the UK, the reason for that might be because they don't want to accidentally implicate a former British prime minister. Can I tell you something? Former prime ministers of Italy are a bit fruity, right? So, but we just have to be careful. I'll tell you the reason, Carol.
Especially the dead
I'll tell you the reason, because it's just unfair to start besmirching people when we don't know who they are. Because can you imagine if it was you and somebody went, everybody knew that
Imagine if
Carol.
they said, Carol, she was on Epstein's plane. Yeah, we know it. Anyway, look, thanks, Carol. Were you on Epstein's plane, Carol?
Pardon?
Were you on Epstein's plane?
So the answer to your question is...
not answering, avoiding the question, Carol.
So, Carol, the actual answer is...
You see how easy it is, Carol? You see how easy...
So actually, the correct answer is, Carol...
You would say that, wouldn't you, though? You see how easy it is, Carol?
Carol, the correct answer to your question, then, is just because a name has been speculated abroad doesn't mean that we should speculate in the UK. That is the answer.
I think Carol might have been on board. I think she might.
Look...
Keep her on, we'll trace her line.
I mean, actually, in truth, part of the problem is that everyone is going to assume who it is, right? Which is actually part of the problem.
There was no list in the end.
Have you seen that before when they were saying which member of the royal family is racist, and literally the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, had to go, it wasn't me.
Imagine if Trump came out and goes, yeah, we found the list, it just has one name, Carol in Renfrewshire. You see, that's how it happens, Carol. That's how it happens.
Behave yourself.
Thanks, Carol. Let's go to Heather in Govan.
Hello,
Heather.
Ash and Andre.
By the way, that's legal services on the phone. Well done, well done, Andre. Well done.
Heather.
Well, about this football match, Tel Aviv versus Aston Villa. I've never seen a football match like this in my whole entire 56
it was a bit boring,
of my
wasn't
life.
It? Yeah,
because I remember back in the 70s and the 80s, we didn't have all this political football whatsoever.
I mean, they did in other countries. There were wars in South America over.
At the end of the day, in the 70s and 80s.
It was Rangers and Celtic, wasn't it?
With all this protest,
you just carry on, Carol.
has completely ruined the game of football.
Let her get out of system.
And the football has been totally ruined by these protesting and the
Are you only 56? You're the same age as me.
It spoiled a really beautiful game.
It is the beautiful game.
Why is he coming to? How many more?
No, you're right, Heather. You bang on, Heather.
Having football matches.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, hang on a second. My dad was at Heysel, where there were significant problems. The stadium fell to bits, right?
Well, it was horrendous. So many fans died in that terrible match. And it's sort of been forgotten.
Liverpool were wrong to be blamed for Heysel. Simply, you know what my dad said? My dad said when we turned up to the stadium, it was just derelict, and it basically just fell apart.
They panicked. There was a stampede, and about a lot of people died, and they carried on with the match after they'd stacked the bodies. It was an unbelievable situation. It was around the time of Hillsborough as well. It was all in that terrible time.
So I
remember the Bradford Stadium.
I remember that. Well, that was just a fire. That was
Stadium.
Well, that was terrible. Yeah, well, that was nothing to do with fire. That was a cigarette butt end.
But I think where we've got to say the difference is, look, Glasgow and Celtic, rightly or wrongly, have been kicking the crap out of each other for the past 150 years, right?
I know that.
Similarly, England fans did get beard up and cause trouble. Galatasaray used to literally issue death threats against people, and unfortunately, the racism of Eastern European clubs did not go without noticing. Things like monkey sound.
It went on in the 20s with the Nazis as well.
However, let me finish my point. However, we have never been in a situation where we've banned fans on the grounds of political pressure over their religion. We've never done that before.
I know it's ridiculous, but but I remember going to Glasgow once, and there were this big derby Glasgow match between Rangers and Celtic.
The old firm derby.
And there was Celtic on one side of the road, and the other side of the road was Rangers.
Well, that's normal.
And
that's like
when
every
I was
football
in
match.
Glasgow that day, it was, oh God, the Celtic fans were absolute. My fans, they are die-hard passionate with football, because one thing about Glasgow, it's like looking at my old team, Leeds United, and all the other teams in England, like Liverpool, Man United, Man City, really die-hard football fans. And same in London as well, with all the big football teams in London. One thing that we are truly passionate about.
She's going to be on the whole show.
And it's spoiled by this protesting in Birmingham with what's been going on tonight. I mean, last night. It's absolutely atrocious. It's spoiled a really fantastic game.
How do I get rid of it? Thanks, Heather. I think she's got something happen.
No, I reckon you press this button. Heather, just,
Yeah, she hadn't finished. Oh, no, don't do it. No, not yet. Stay it. Close the button. Oh, she's gone. Oh, no.
Right.
Kevin, should be...
Right, OK, I'll tell you what we should do.
My fader was broken. I couldn't do anything.
So Ash was trying... I'll tell you what, we're going to go to a break now, but my favourite story about football is this. If any of you travel on Arriva West Coast, or indeed Virgin Trains after Wembley, and you are a football fan or a rugby fan, do you know what they do?
What?
So first of all, what you will all know is that they pick up your booze on the way in at Euston Station and don't allow you to have it. Right, so they take all the booze.
Put it in your pants.
No, they get it. Well, I don't know.
Sure, yeah,
but okay, so alcohol is banned on the train. Yeah. Here's what they do next. When they get out of Euston, they turn the heating up because everyone's had a few drinks. They reckon they all sing for the first 10 minutes and then they all fall asleep.
Oh, right, yeah, cunning plan,
Then they turn the heating down at crew and everyone wakes up again.
Anyway, 03444 99 1000. Give us a ring. Let's go to Kevin in Lincoln.
No, let's go to a break.
All right, break, and then we'll be with Kevin in Lincolnshire.
We have to regroup after Heather.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, let me tell you a heartwarming story. The Islamic Republic of Iran has said Goli Kukan, who is 25, will be taken off death row if she pays her husband's family £80,000. She was married aged 12, pregnant aged 13. He was extremely abusive, so she killed him, and now she has to pay the family 80 grand in compensation, despite the fact that he married her when she was 12. What a lovely place Iran sounds like. And that is and what we're saying is people come over from Iran believing in things like that, equal but different.
Yeah, and they want to leave there because they don't like the regime. They want to bring it here.
Absolutely right. OK, let's get to some callers. And who are we going to go with
Kevin,
first?
we said Kevin in Lincolnshire. Hi, Kev.
Hiya.
How you doing, man? Yeah.
I was listening to you earlier, and I thought
earwigging, were we?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I was listening to the points Andre made. He's not an avid sports fan, neither am I. But what he said about Leicester City and Bradford rang a bell. You know, they rang a tone. And I watched the match, you know, Aston Villa.
It was a bit boring, wasn't it? A boring
I watched it on TV.
Yeah.
There was very little said nothing said about what was happening outside the ground.
Yeah.
But when you looked at overall the first half,
yeah,
Aston Villa were very, very poor, apart from the goal just before half-time.
Yeah, great angle, that goal.
Performance.
So when you say they... Stop. Stop. When you say they were very poor, which team?
Villa.
Oh, OK, continue.
Yeah, because the Israeli team, Maccabi, were inspired, but they got no crowd backing whatsoever behind them.
So you think this actually put wind in their sails? I mean, a lot of Villa Park was empty because a lot of Villa fans saying we're not going because, you know, there might be trouble.
Well, that's the other point I'm coming to, because...
And I'll start with your thunder.
I would have expected that it's Villa and what they do in the community, you'd have expected to see quite a lot of Asian origin faces in the crowd.
There is a few.
I'm sure that you, being in the media, will be able to compare shots of that ground on home matches to see who was missing from those seats that were prepaid in advance, I dare say. So there's no loss, really, there to the football club, apart from for the, you know, away team ticket.
Right, I see what you mean, yeah. I know, I mean, it is mainly made up. I mean,
you could look at that, but whenever, you know, you said, and it's quite accurate, football is a tribal game, and if you ban half the team, you know, who are supporting the opposition, if you like, on your home ground, you're not going to get the best out of anybody, because people are G'd on by supporters.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. I mean, I had a friend of mine who did the peer review of Hillsborough. Right. Now, remember, what Sir Norman Bettison did was he lied about Liverpool fans, right?
Yeah,
and he said that some of them had looted and urinated on the dead. Now, my friend did the peer review, which means you're the police officer who reads all the police statements and collates it and comes to your own conclusion. So remember, he's got the faked evidence that Bettison had forged.
No, it was better than that.
Yeah. So he. Well, do it. Go for it. You explain.
There was a thing called the ESDA test around at that time, and basically, if you put graphite over a paper underneath a written statement,
you can play the cone, can't you? You can play music on it.
Precisely. You could almost see what was written afterwards or what was corrected afterwards.
It's got no relevance. OK, so...
I like this call. So what is the relevance of putting graphite in a piece of paper?
It showed up that quite a lot of police officers' evidence was doctored to support the narrative.
Yeah. Sure, but that wasn't the point I was making. The point I was making was this. My friend had read all this evidence and believed it to be true. What he said subsequently was this. You can't judge a body of 10,000 supporters by the 3 people who are the worst people you could ever find. Yeah. He said there will always be a level of criminality within. Now, as it turned out, the allegations against the Liverpool fans at Hillsborough weren't true, but he thought they were true, and his argument was we shouldn't judge people by that. I am sure it is true that some fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv have actually made jokes about killing Arab children or whatever it is, in the same way as we've had to ban people from British clubs for doing either...
Well, not only that, I mean, Liverpool used to sing horrible songs about a Munich plane crash.
I understand all that.
And Man United would sing about it.
I understand all that. I understand all that. Allow me to finish the point. The point I'm making is you can't judge an entire football club by 3 or 4 people. That's all I was trying to say. Jesus, don't have a go at me.
Yeah, don't have a go.
No, I didn't say that you were judging people by a minority of their supporters. All I'm saying is that there were a lot of their supporters missing. And from which ethnic group?
It was all Villa fans who just didn't want to go to a trouble spot. That was all. It wasn't like. It could be. It wasn't like all the Asian fans didn't go. You know what I mean? I don't think you're reading too much into that. But maybe, I'm sure maybe they didn't as well. But there was a lot of people who just general Villa fans who didn't want to go.
A lot of people might have had birthday parties and didn't want to go.
Exactly.
The point is that there were a lot of empty seats on the home side.
Because they didn't want to go.
Because they didn't want to go. But at the same time...
We're just showing brand new footage of the trouble that was outside Villa Park. This has just been released by the PA News Agency. You can see there's a lot of Union Jack flags. Well, it's on now, Union Jack flags.
Here we have the latest from the Press Association, which is showing the police having a bit of an argument with some pro-British Villa supporters. So the long and short of it is, I don't think
the Villa supporters, they're the counter-protesters.
Here we go. And these lots are... So what's been released to the mainstream media is the people with Union Jacks having a go at the police, whilst a group of mostly peaceful Muslims are angry about Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Just typify what happened. I mean, we've got a non-governmental group telling...
It's Reuters, by the way, not PA, this.
Oh, come on, look at this.
No, I'm not talking about the report. I'm talking about, the Safety Commission or whatever they call it.
Yeah, security.
Basically saying... we're going to write off your insurance possibilities for entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, what should have happened is UEFA should have come out and done something. Say, well, you're going to forfeit the game, or something's going to happen. You've got to play it somewhere else, or you've got to force it through. They shouldn't have allowed this to happen.
I think if insurance is withdrawn, then UEFA's got enough money to step in and say, well, we'll cover it.
There's been 11 arrests, by the way. Thanks for that call, Kevin. Let's go to... Was that Kevin? Let's go to Daniel in Shropshire. Daniel, hi.
Hello, guys.
Morning.
Morning. Yeah, one thing that I just don't understand with the whole Islamism debate is we have a legal definition of Islamism. But the numbers, if you look at the counter-terrorism numbers, 40,000 on the terrorism watch list, are not even close to what the government what the government's definition of Islamism is.
There's a lot more than 40,000. They're just the ones on the watch list. I mean, often there's a terror attack and they weren't on the watch list.
Well, no, I'll actually give you the actual numbers. So the definition of Islamism, according to the government's definition, is Islamism is an extremist ideology that seeks to overthrow or replace our liberal parliamentary democracy with a theocratic Islamic state under Sharia law. Henry Jackson Society 2024 found 32% of British Muslims favour the declaration of Islam as the national religion, and 32% of British Muslims said they favour the implementation of Sharia law within the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Now, those two things would make Britain an Islamic state.
Yeah.
So by that calculation alone, if we take the percentage of Muslims that live in Britain, that is 1.27 million Islamists.
Yeah, I mean, and then on the watch list, just the number on the watch list is more than the ISIS.
Well, no, I mean, what we are talking about is this blur thing, this blur idea that you are allowed to be an extremist as long as you're not a violent extremist. Yeah. I mean, the Home Office were giving money left, right, and centre to prevent people who were former terrorists.
Oh, we're bringing Hamas leaders over. They're living in Harrow, no problem. We'll pay for the rest of their lives. Yeah, just come and live here and arrange protests.
Well, it's like the Muslim Brotherhood. If you look at the Cameron report from...
Mamdani, he was supported by them. Yeah, they support a lot of the institutions that are being infiltrated.
So actually, by your mathematics, Daniel, which I've confirmed, 1.3 million British citizens believe that in the next 20 years, Sharia law should be implemented and that Islam should be announced as a state religion. 1.3 million Britons.
So yeah,
Actually,
it's actually more with the younger generation.
Actually, that's wrong. if we assume it's only Muslims who support this, it's 1.3 million. I think there's a lot of lefties who, in practice, are arguing in favour of this.
Yeah, but also, not only that, the younger generation are a higher proportion. You know, I know the Henry Jackson, they spoke to a lot of young people, and they said, you know, homosexuality should be illegal. It was something like 30%. I mean, actually, the second generation has become more extreme than their parents.
That's your right. I mean, every single extremist mosque preaches in English, whereas quite a lot of the other mosques preach in Urdu. And the reason they preach in English is because they say there's a British identity, which is you are a British Muslim and your job is to overthrow the British government in favour of a caliphate. Now, the majority of young British Muslims don't believe that, but it is a fact that that's what they're preaching.
But it's like the one thing I'm very concerned with is if you look at Mondani in New York and Zara Sultana, is we're seeing the rise of Islamic Marxists, which are far more deadly. The history of Iran tells us that around 1979, the Iranian Revolution, and if you listen to Zara Sultana, the way she speaks about, she has this phrase she uses very often where she says socialism or barbarism. That phrase that phrase comes from a woman called Rosa Luxemburg, who was a German Marxist and a very close ally of Vladimir Lenin. And if you look at her language of how she views, yes, obviously NATO didn't exist in the early 19th century, but her view of Western alliances being a form of imperialism and how she views Zionism as Western colonialism, that is the language of Lenin. The
thing that amazes me, though, Daniel, is the way that you can complain about imperialism, you can complain about, taking over people's countries and exploiting it, and at the same time believe in uncontrolled immigration. Because very clearly, Aston is much more similar to Pakistan than it is the United Kingdom. And that is because of Pakistani imperialism, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I could actually explain that to you. You see, what so many people don't know is that progressivism, which comes obviously the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, and pretty much every left-wing party, progressivism is nothing more than redefined Marxism.
Yes.
Which is essentially an umbrella term for social justice, critical theory, and all progressives did throughout postmodernism and intersectionality throughout the 60s to the 90s, was they took Marxist theory and redefined the class structure not just to mean economic wealth, but to include all forms of human identity. So race, culture, religion, gender. And when you hear these leftists say progress, all that means is the oppressed overthrowing the oppressor, but it applies to...
And is that now an ethnic thing? So basically the concept centrally is that you have to smash the white race in order to bring in Marxism?
Or smash the system?
Essentially, yes.
Because I've noticed a remarkable level of racism that exists now. I've called it the original sin of being white, which is white children have to go to school and apologise for slavery and apologise for colonialism and all this sort of thing.
This is how Mamdani won. He said it's us versus them, and we'll win, and there's enough of us to win, and you can have everything free, and that's basically what's happened.
What you're talking about there, Andre, is critical race theory and white privilege, which was first stems out of...
Harvard, wasn't it? From Harvard.
It first stems out of critical legal studies, but the main perpetrator behind that was a woman called Cheryl Harris, who wrote an essay in the 90s called Whiteness as Property. And she argued that if you are born with white skin, that you are born with a form of unearned property, an unearned inherited privilege.
Racist.
But we are. I mean, as white people. So when I was a little boy, everything in this country was about class. It's now all about race, and I recognise that race is the #1 political issue in Britain today. I don't like that, but I recognise it's the case. But I'm as a white person, I am part of the only. I'm part of the only minority in the world where it is perfectly acceptable to stand up and say there should be genocide against us, maybe Jews as well. But look, we have our own political leaders in Britain who say that we were all born evil. And now remember, when you talk about being a minority, we are a minority in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I don't use the term ethnic minorities. I hate that term. I look very much the more accurate term is global majority.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Daniel. We've got a little break at this juncture, and don't stay tuned because you'll have my very emotional meeting after about 25 years with Chris Eubank. Back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Very upsetting,
I
wasn't
know,
it?
I hate it when someone just has a go at me and starts going,
very
no,
hurtful.
it's normally Heather in Gavan, where you go, Heather, what do you think? She just goes off on one, you go, can I just get a word in edgeways? Oh, listen to me, listen to me.
By the way, today we love our calls. They do call us again in a couple of months. But no, I ain't joking. No, not really. Anyway, today it was very emotional because I caught up with it. I mean, my old mate Chris Eubank. I mean, I worked with him 25 years ago. We were the best of mates. So we'd go out, we'd do loads of things. We used to run around the forest, and I think we went on holiday to Benidorm. Yeah, I mean, we did all that type of thing, and we become really close. And you know, we became almost like
dance
brothers
together.
and that. And it was lovely. It was so emotional because I don't know why we just didn't talk. We just sort of lost touch, and it was so emotional today. And we had such catching up to do, and. You know, let's have a look at it. Really emotional. Check this out, man. Chris Eubank used to do a show with him. He's got no recollection of me whatsoever, but that's all right, man. A lot's happened since then. You haven't aged, though.
Well, that's kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that beautiful? I mean, what poignant, lovely moment.
Sorry.
Play it again, because we got play it again, Sam.
Play it again.
It's only quick, Sam. Chris Eubank used to do a show with him. He's got no recollection of me whatsoever, but that's all right, man. A lot's happened since then. You haven't aged, though.
Well, that's kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
And that was it. You know, we had that sort of relationship. We didn't need words. We were that close that everything could be said in 4 seconds.
I mean, what? Right, tell me what show you had together, because he just didn't know you were.
Show,
he just thought you were the local piss pot.
He's had a lot of bangs to the head, hasn't he? A lot of bangs to the head. I don't know how he didn't remember me or anything. I did look different. I obviously looked homeless and I had long hair and a beard at the time.
He just thinks you're the local drunk or something.
Yeah,
I appreciate you haven't been drinking.
He did actually, but we did get on. I had another few chats with him. Not quite as poignant and touching as that, but it was.
I had a conversation with Frank Bruno, and can I tell you one thing about Frank Bruno? If you met him and had a conversation with him and went, "What does he do for a living?" Kicks the shit out of people. You would never guess that.
Punches.
You would never guess that, right? He was just a completely lovely.
Yeah, but he was a giant of a man and a lot of muscle. He was like incredible, the best physique in boxing.
Do you reckon he was just like a bear? He just claws.
No, he was an all right fighter, but you know he was out of his depth with Tyson.
Oh, Tyson was.
But he had a good punch. Tyson said that he did wobble his anyway. Callers, Paul in Worcester. Hi, Paul.
Guys, how you doing?
Sorry, yeah, all right, man. What's up, man? Paul.
I was at the match tonight. It was there.
Tell us what happened. Did you see any trouble?
No, not really. There was a bit of handbags at dawn, but there wasn't really any trouble. It was really well policed, to be honest.
And the game was a bit boring, wasn't it? Did you notice there weren't any fans in the stadium? It was like half full, wasn't it? And that was just mainly people didn't want to get any trouble. They were expecting a bit more trouble than what they got.
Do you think people were expecting a terrorist attack?
No. To be fair, we expected a lot less fans in the stadium, and I would say it was at, I don't know, 60-70%.
Oh, that's all right. And do you think that people came as a show of defiance as well?
Yes, it was. It was just a show of defiance. It was, you know, that's what it was.
Sorry, forgive me to be a bit thick here, but show of defiance against what? So they were turning up despite the fact Maccabi Tel Aviv couldn't come, or they were showing up because they didn't like Maccabi?
We ain't going to be cowed by it, you know what I mean?
Oh,
this is our city, and we're not going to be told it's not our city.
Yeah, but if 30 to 40% of Villa fans didn't turn up, then that shows they have been intimidated by the Islamists. Doesn't it? I mean, you know, a third to a half of them didn't show up.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't half. It wasn't anything like half. 50% tops.
How many percent? Sorry.
50% tops didn't.
I couldn't hear that.
Keeps cutting out.
It keeps cutting out at the moment when you say the number.
More.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it was.
It's not going to be.
Was at least 70% capacity on the.
Oh, okay, so 30%.
Not actually bad for a midweek game, anyway, is it? And of course, there was 10,000. They didn't sell the empty seats that the Maccabi fans would have got. Anyway, Steve is in Essex. Where in Essex are you, Steve? That's a very big county. Second biggest county, I think.
Is it?
Or third? Steve, are you drunk, Steve? Are you watching Emmerdale Farm, Steve? Steve?
I'm on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've had Pink Floyd on, and I've just stuck on the one that's got a...
What are you listening to? I like that music. What's that? Is that Pink Floyd?
Yeah, it's a...
Is that A Saucer Full of Secrets, the original album with Sid Barrett?
Sid James.
Yeah. What album is it, Steve?
No.
What is it? What album, Steve? What album is it?
The other album was
Steve. What album was it? Steve.
No, I've changed the album. No.
Well, what have you put on? We want to know. You know, our audience want. Steve.
Listen, right, the birds went out with an old man was in
and that's Steve in Essex.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that priest in Father Ted who just goes, 2
minutes, I can't hear everyone. Hold up.
All right.
2 minutes, Turkish. 2 minutes.
Good point. It's a very good point.
Right. Mate, I can't think of her name, but she went out with Brad Pitt.
Angelina Jolie.
Oh man, was a Midnight Cowboy, right? With
Dustin Hoffman, was it?
And they died in the fucking...
And that is Steve in Essex. Let's go to Dave in Worcester.
What was
you
it?
want to know? Yeah, no, Steve, what was that? What's that? Tell us more of your wisdom, Steve.
Pardon?
Anyway, Dave in Worcester. Apparently, he was swearing and using curse words. David in Worcester.
Well, I mean, everyone swears sometimes, so you can't...
Are you drunk? Are you drunk, David?
No.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
I'm having mental health tablets, so no.
All right, okay.
No, it's just rock like so.
Hold on, Steve's still here. Steve! Steve, what album have you got on now, Steve?
I have got, I can't remember her name. She went out
What are we doing here?
Here, Dave, have a chat to Steve, Dave.
She's a good entry.
Chat to Steve, Dave. Steve.
And whatever her name is, that one.
Steve.
Well, it's just.
Yeah, she's on. Yeah, she's in the film.
Like a bar brawl.
Which one's Steve? Sorry, Dave. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's up there.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Right, Dave.
Yeah.
Have you finished, or have you got more too?
No, well, I've not spoke yet.
Oh no, you haven't. Let's go, Dave in Worcester. Hi, Dave. You're on talk. I thought you had.
Yeah, I so when the synagogue was the rest of soul, son.
That was just a noise.
About 3 miles from my mum's. So I've come from Blakely, Manchester, Ian Park, and obviously Andre lives in Cheshire, which is a bit more. I'll put it one way. We go there.
We're going to need another call before the end.
What?
Right.
Sorry, carry on, Dave.
No, you just said something.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do now. Look, we've got a couple of minutes left. And Asher, no, don't worry about another caller. I don't need it. Asher, I want to ask you something about what's happened tonight. You're an Aston Villa fan. You've been a regular there. Now, you're in a difficult position because you are both, somebody who's a British patriot, but you also happen to be Jewish, right?
And a Villa fan.
Yeah. So where do we go from here?
We say this must never happen again, and we will meet this where it is, and we don't want to end up like with this grammar school teacher in Batley, and we don't want to kowtow to anyone. This is Britain, this is our country, and we'll go with our culture. Thank you very much.
But if I'm say Manchester United now, right?
Yeah.
Or Manchester City, or one of the big clubs, and I now qualify for Europe, and I'm up against an Israeli club. Surely I have to ban the fans as well because the precedent has been set.
Well, that's exactly it. You shouldn't have set this precedent.
And the police will turn round. We all know what the police are worried about: an angry mob burning the stadium down.
Well, I also think it was also just it was political as well. Let's ban the Israelis because, of course, it came from that MP, and these MPs were sectarian MPs. They won on the Gaza Sea. They're campaigning for an airport in Pakistan at one point, weren't they? I mean, what is going on?
What worries me more than anything else now is I think we've taken a step forward. You and I had that conversation about Mike Freer, perceived to be Jewish, office burnt down in Finchley and Gold's Green. He wasn't Jewish, but when he stood down because of threats to his family, we knew that was the start of something.
Well, they shut down Parliament, Lindsay Oil. I mean, what the hell were they doing? This is not the Churchill Bulldog spirit. You don't shut down Parliament because you're scared of a few people outside.
Well, I'm happy to give a final thought just in the dying moments of this.
Andre's final thought.
My view is very simply this. We are a democracy, and we are a country where freedom, free speech, assembly rights and property rights have been passed down from generation to generation. I don't think that